Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Psych Club, the Tom Numbers Show, and News with Tom Numbers. And I have got the magnificent JANINE MORIGEAU. JANINE, how are you?
Good, Tom. How's everybody doing out there?
Well, I hope they're doing good out there. I'm doing good here, and it's interesting. There's lots of things going on, as always, but the weather is improved and it feels more like summer. So how's it out in your neck of the woods, out on the other side of the continent of Canada? Well, Canada, you know what I mean. Out there, out yonder.
We're on the very west point of Canada, northwest, and it's kind of rainy the last week, but it was one of the most amazing May, June, and July's. So we can stand a little rain. Frankly, it's good.
So in terms of amazing, just what, lots of different kind of beautiful scenic weather, lots of portraits in the sky and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really clear skies, other than when it gets overcast and rains. And it feels like it's really natural weather, but I mean, that's just the feeling. We're not getting any weird, strange anomaly weather, which I know is happening in other places.
Okay, cool, interesting. Yeah, it feels like they've almost turned the weather off here. I made it cold. For about a month, it's felt like kind of mid to late autumn or early spring, but then you get sprinkles of sunshine one day, you know. So anyway, it is what it is. So a couple of weeks ago, when we thought we'd do another show, Sinead O'Connor passed away. Now I've got some thoughts and feelings on it. You might have done some reads on it, but I wanted to ask, did she actually die or did she go into witness protection, Sinead O'Connor?
Oh, I did it several times. I looked at it and it looked like she was actually fighting for a long time to expose, and she likely went into protection. It didn't look like she passed.
Okay, yeah.
From what I was getting in the cards anyway. Yeah,
it kind of makes sense. I was feeling that. And the amazing thing about it, there's a few artists like this where they become iconic, usually just for, I'm not saying just for, well, for one song. I mean, Nothing Compares to You, that became iconic and it's used everywhere. And I mean, there are other songs she's done, but I can't remember them all. But yeah, quite a lot of people can do that. They can have not a one-hit wonder, but you know what I mean? They become iconic through a certain piece of work and it just transcends everything. And she was one of them that did that, you know. And I've seen, what's her true feelings to President Trump? Let's have a look at this on the cards, because I looked at it and she seems like she's publicly kind of had a go at him, but she was also having a go at the Vatican. So I'm wondering if it was just optics, you know, look over here, not over here. Are secretly her and Trump on good terms?
Okay, so that looks like it might have taken her a while to understand he was not in the cabal. I feel like she might actually have had a revelation and woke up to the fact that, and maybe they even schooled her, you know, somebody took her aside and said, hey, you know, you're against the Vatican, you're against, like, she was picking up on things that the white hats already knew for years. And that the alliance knew, and then they sort of brought Trump in, and she might not have realized he was part of the. It was like I was like that. I was against Christianity in the formal sense, where it's repressive, and where the part that I knew, like Catholicism in particular, I knew these things about, like organized religion.
Yeah.
And see that card there? She was walking away from everybody in the elite societies. So I feel like she might not have known who Trump was in that circle. And she might have been fooled by CNN, just like the rest of us, or by just mainstream media. And then she figured it out, though. So at some point, it looks like she came with that card in the middle to the realization who he was. By the way, these are my giant tarot cards. I thought it'd be fun to use them for the audience. They're really as big as, they're giant. Yeah, she didn't know. So this card says she literally didn't really know. So she knew there was bad people out there. She knew about the cult. She knew about certain things, but it took her a while to get on board that Trump was one of the good guys. But that
Okay.
was towards the end of maybe her planning her leaving.
Okay. That makes sense, because, yeah, I'm sure if she's not, she's gone into protection, then she would have to have a revelation of some description and know who's who and what's going on. I've got a question. It's interesting you pulled up the large cards. You said they're giant. Giant is 51 in numbers, which is great, but it's also top. And you got the famous other cards, top trumps. And that card you're showing is like one of the trump cards, because you've got the trumpet and judgment and the English flag, etc. So that's interesting, that and the metaphor of what's coming out of that with the numbers while you're showing it. Yeah, because top is 51, giant is 51. So top card, top trumps. Yeah. Top card. Yeah.
And it is funny that in tarot, these are called the trump cards. So they're major arcana, and the nickname for them are their trump cards. They trump other cards. In other words, they're to be taken more seriously. And when they come up in a reading, you have to read them more intensely. And you also look at them on a longer span of time, and they're more karmic and destined. Whereas the minor arcana flow, and you can change the outcomes of minor arcana. If they're all minor arcana, you can still change the outcome with actions. And by thinking differently and intending differently and changing your actions. But trump cards, major arcana, you can't change those. The outcomes are coming anyway. It's already been created. So isn't that funny that they're called trump cards? I find that very interesting.
I know. And that's the thing, because it jumps across all these different categories of belief, of esoteric wisdom. So you've got tarot, you've got the numbers, you've got, I guess, pure Christianity, and if they, without all the dogma and all the hijackness of it, or other faiths, or other belief systems, people trying to figure out what the heck's going on. It's amazing how these recurring themes, like trump cards, come up. It's like, well, why was that put there? I think personally, that name was created, and those things like trump cards in the tarot, but also the game of top trumps, I think those things were put in at the beginning, at the inception of this game, of this whole thing that we're in of life. I think they're all, I see it with the numbers, you can trace it all back to the year dot, even if there is a year dot. I don't know if there is, but when this all sort of kicked off, and it's like, okay, we got these parameters, you're going to get to this great awakening at the end, which may be the beginning. Things like the trump cards are there, and it's like, well, how did that get there in the first place? Someone had to put it there.
Weaving of timelines that don't go linear like we thought they did, and also maybe time travel. Place things, because now they know Trump's maybe going to be a head player in this what we're watching right now, what we're going through. So they, somehow go back and place that in there, just like that Baron Trump book. It was written, and it's all about Baron Trump. Name of Trump's son, and it's a story similar maybe to his life. And how did that get a couple of 100 years back placed into the scenario? Something funny going on here with timelines.
Yeah, definitely. And the interesting thing about timelines, the timeline is, this always happens. So I had a number here on my phone, which is 106, and that comes to timelines. And I had that prior to you saying the word timelines, because I was going to mention it about something else. And what that word actually, what the context I was using it in is it comes to the word puzzle, because there's and timeline without the S, so singular, is 87, which is truth, which is justice, which is junior, stellar. There's a lot of things, but I wanted to point out and ask a few questions about this. So early lockdown, I've mentioned this before, but it's come back around. Early lockdown, Boris Johnson, the PM of United Kingdom in 2020, he went in, showed everyone you need to stay indoors, because look, I've got the illness, and he was up in number 11 supposedly, and he said the key to the coronavirus puzzle is to stay indoors. Now I saw that right at the beginning. I was like, okay, That means you can sit indoors and watch TV, or you can research, you can try and figure out what the heck's going on. And that's when I started getting all the numbers, probably just that day or probably a few days before, because as soon as they locked us in, I was just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I was thinking about it before, but the numbers started descending. Now, the interesting thing about the numbers on this is coronavirus puzzle comes to 261. And puzzle is 106, which is red pilling, which is prophecy. And coronavirus puzzle 261 comes to November 22nd, which is the date of JFK in November 22nd, 1963, his assassination. Swap, witness protection, however you want to look at it. Diana, August 31st, comes to 261. National Security Agency comes to 261. Mission Impossible Mask comes to 261. You've got the Mission Impossible film one right now. And I was like, coronavirus puzzle is 261. And Boris Johnson comes to 158, which comes to top trumps. I was like, okay. So Boris goes in, gets swapped over, telling us from up above number 11, telling us the key to the coronavirus puzzle is to stay indoors. Like, okay, very good.
Yeah.
So I think he's part of central casting. President Trump has been saying central casting. He's saying all these characters are central casting. Central casting is 146, which is New Jerusalem. It's Truth Social. It's Angel Studios, which were the kind of final pushers of the film Sound of Freedom. They're the ones that got it off the ground. A lot of people at the front say, oh, they were, they're Sound of Freedom. I think they're Angel Studios. I think it was the Trumps that got that off. When they needed to, they launched it. So my observation with Boris, we've looked at it, I'm sure, before that he was swapped then, but he's also, by his numbers, he's a trump card. He's a top trumps. Are we going to see a return of Boris doing stuff that is clearly under the white hat direction? Because he did say, I'll be back. He quoted the Terminator line, said, I will be back. Are we going to see him back before the November election next year in some shape or form, either in a position or revealing big truth bombs?
We've got the 6 of Pentacles there. So that's a 50-50 kind of card to me. It's like 60-40, I guess.
Okay.
And then we've got the Death card. So yeah, if he does come back, there's a chance, I'd say, with that card, but it looks like he's a very changed, like he's transformed, which would make sense to what you're saying. He's definitely more on the good guy side. I mean, they wouldn't even let him show his face if he wasn't. At this point, I don't think anybody's going to surface in any big way. Have you noticed it's only been the taking out the bad characters?
Yeah.
We haven't really seen any new real baddies surface.
No.
We've only seen obvious fake baddies, like what goes on with the Biden regime. We've been seeing them parading around doing really unbelievable and embarrassing things.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the Biden team. And then the Trudeau bunch, they're just outing themselves, in particular, the fake Trudeau, outing himself as the person he always was anyway. They got the actor really showing us who these guys really are. But we haven't seen any brand new baddies come on the scene, which tells you everything. They're just playing out these roles, you guys. We don't have, these guys have no clout anymore, the bad guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just more and more amazed at how amazing it is when you see these characters. Like the level of say, let's call it central casting. Trump has said that. So they've got it's actors, masks, CGI. I do think a lot of it is off-worlders, though, from ships above. I think because New Jerusalem, if we say that could be a ship, 146, New Jerusalem. Central casting, 146. Star Trek has shown us that people can beam back and forth between place dimensional, they can change. I think there's been a lot of that going on. Can we ask that question? Are a lot of the characters from central casting, 146 central casting, are they from the New Jerusalem? New Jerusalem is 146, which a lot of people think is the name of one of the major ships, kind of waiting to get revealed at some point. Almost like a Star Trek ship.
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
And interesting. Yeah, for absolutely on the bad guy side for sure. So that what would be our dark hat side. And there's a big yes to that.
Okay.
Okay. And
so
then
when you say yes to that,
sorry, this in the middle, which is like, you're not going to officially know for a while. So
Okay.
that's not officially known, like the whole world doesn't know that yet, because
Yeah.
that's withholding information, but
Yeah.
certainly this bunch knows, like anybody watching videos like
Yeah.
the Psych Club, they're going to know.
Yeah. So when you said on the bad side, meaning these bad characters have been swapped out and they're, you know, they're now under the come down from the New Jerusalem Central Casting 146, and they're doing the role that they need to for the movie. Okay, got it. And interesting enough, when you did this with the X, so this is another question I was just about to ask. So Twitter, we know, just changed its name a week or two ago from Twitter to X. Now, a lot of people got a lot of theories on what that is, and I'm sure there's multiple answers for it. But one of the things I've seen with it, and I believe is the case, so then if you do the numbers on the word Twitter, it's 115. So it's 115. Now, that can be a date. An American date would be 11/5, which would be November 5th. And we've always been told to remember the 5th of November. Remember is actually 158, which is Boris Johnson, which is also top trumps. So you could look at that and say top trumps the 5th of November. I think that's the case. But November, so 11/5 is Twitter. 115 spells the word Twitter, but it's changed to X now. So I was like, okay, so what's that? X is 24 in numbers. So I'm like, is this a date? Are they pointing at the November election? Because Trump has said this is far more important than people can even possibly imagine. The November date, the election date in 2024 is November 5th. So 11/5, November 5th comes to the word Twitter, and is X, because that's the year 24. I'm wondering if there's anything on that in the cards. Is that part of what they're doing with the changing of the name?
Okay, that's heavy secrecy.
Okay.
And again, like not time to know. So we're not gonna get even the cards like, no, we're not telling you that one.
Okay.
So, wow.
Good question. Stop talking. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's
okay.
funny.
That is funny.
And it's for balance. So the reason, so I pulled one more to say, well, why can't we know? But because a bunch of things have to, it would imbalance things going forward. I don't know what I mean by that. I'm just reading the cards. People can put that together, and digital soldiers out there can figure it out. Maybe your cards can even figure it out. The word balance comes to mind with this card, and the word, like it's a political card in a way, believe it or not. Lovers. So many people think it's about relationships. Well, it is about relationships, but not necessarily intimate ones or personal ones, unless you were asking a question about intimate and personal relationships, in which case it's a tricky card, because it can mean you have a lot of choices to make and you're very attractive or attracted to others. So it's not necessarily a happy relationship card either, per se. It can be about divorce even, and making big choices in love. But when it comes to political questions and questions about world events, it's more about balance and the structure of political, everybody's poising politically for some reason, and everything you're watching is a political posturing. That's kind of where I'd go with it. So it feels like for those reasons, we can't know that right now. They're trying to present something a certain way for a reason.
Yeah, interesting. Because the word balance is 38, which comes to gold, it comes to change, it comes to fire, comes to ocean, comes to sand. It comes to the word death as well. So the word death comes to 38, balance comes to 38. So maybe there is a change. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that all the things, all the kind of magical goodies that we're hoping for, I'm hoping we'll really start to see around that time of that election. Another thing with that is how to put this? Yeah, okay. Is there anything, can we look at, still in that card set, is there anything with that thing of change, is there anything to do with the financial system around that?
Well, it made sense because you said the word gold and change. So changing the gold back to financial system would make sense. That's the first thing I thought.
Yeah.
So 9 and 7. So 9 of Cups is wish card or a wish card or a wish coming true. And I don't know about you, but we were just talking about how we wished or hoped or intended that to come. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. So our wish comes true. And then we've got this 7, and this is interesting. So this is about unique, can be about unique countries, can be about it's about standing your ground and having personal integrity with your own ideas. But then weirdly, it can also talk about, it's very Sagittarian. So it can talk about other places and places different than your home. So places far away that are very foreign to you, whatever that means. So a very unique and different, and this is way outside the box too. 7, way outside the box. We're not talking a typical. So the system that's coming is very different than anything we've known. And then I got this card. So it's going to be somehow guided, or it was created maybe other dimensionally, or by our future selves, galactic helpers, if you will,
Yeah.
or otherwise known as the Alliance. So I think it's way beyond our comprehension. It's not just as typical as, oh, all of a sudden we're going to have a gold backed. I feel like the currency will be very unique and nothing like what we've known before. And I don't know what that entails, but I'll just say that.
Okay. When you said 7 and 9, so the word 7 is 65 and the word 9 is 42, and you add them together comes to 107, which comes to the word quantum, and it also comes to the word currency. And my question was based about the quantum system. And if you do 7 and 9, that takes you to 126. 126 comes to, if you spell the word 45, obviously Trump's 45th president. 45 is spade. It's the most powerful deck suit in the deck of cards with the 4 suits. But also 126 comes to Chinese elders. Is there any connection with the card you just picked and this financial system that we really can't kind of conceive of how it's going to work? Is there any direct link with the Chinese elders with that in regards to the cards that you just pulled?
I wonder when they say Chinese elders, so they throw around that term.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they don't mean galactic helpers. I mean, Chinese elders, galactic, maybe they're literally coming back to help from other dimensions and timelines, and they're from our future.
Yes.
And they're elders because they've lived through things like this, or they've already lived through this maybe, and they kind of know what to bring us wisdom wise. So interesting. People just throw around that Chinese elders. You mean a bunch of old Chinese people? I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. Come on.
Yeah.
Where's the picture of them? Let me see these guys and or gals. Okay, but I have a feeling they're talking about something different.
Yeah,
like what we were just talking about. So that does tie into what you're getting there.
Yeah.
Or what you're getting at there. Okay.
That makes sense. Galactic Alliance, wise old souls. Yeah.
So a lot we don't know.
Okay.
So there's things we don't comprehend yet. See, this one sword's underneath. We know this much, but we don't know, and we can't know that much yet. And they are definitely connected to the gold system for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think you're in that vicinity of the discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
Another thing that I just noticed about that. So I've heard the phrase Chinese elders for ages, and I've used it a few times and just now. But I didn't realize this. I might have done it ages ago, but I've forgotten. So Chinese elders, if you break down the 2 words, Chinese is 63. And that always makes me think of JFK in 63. And JFK in 63, November 22nd, happened on a Friday. The word Friday also comes to 63, which is the word Chinese. It's also the word 11. But Chinese elders, the plural, is also 63. So in that phrase, Chinese elders, you've also got, you spell the word 11, which is Chinese, 63. But also the word elders is 63, which is also the word 11. So it's actually saying 11, 11. in one way at looking at it. And with the beauty of that is 11 times 11 comes to 121. And that comes to Golden Jubilee, and it comes to Second Coming, and it comes to Revelation. So I'm wondering, like you were saying about it, these Chinese elders, who are they? What are they? Yeah, it just basic logic suggests that they're kind of, you know, like you said, off-worldy alliance, something way more powerful than just this term Chinese elders. And that's, I'd never really noticed that before, that they're actually 1111, and 1111 is a super powerful number, and it could maybe be a date. I mean, that's 6 days after the 5th, but Chinese elders. Another thing with that is there was a film, you probably might remember this, Janine, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, probably a year and a half ago. There was a film that came out in the cinemas called The 355. It was just a number, 355, but it was The 355. And it went around all the forums and all Telegram, and everyone's like, look at this, you got to watch this film. I've never actually seen the film. I've seen the trailer of it, but I did numbers on it, and they've come back around again. So the phrase, remember the 5th of November, or the phrase, top trumps the 5th of November, or top trumps every last secret, all of these things come to 355, which also comes to Parliament Square, Westminster, which is a key focal point. But one, I haven't said it a number of times, you know, the battle's kind of with England. You've got the Vatican, you've got you've got DC, but it all goes back to this, you know, ruling from the crown and all the rest of it. But the hub of that, the hub of Parliament, Westminster, is there at Parliament Square in Westminster, but it comes to 355. Was that film put out by the White Hats to draw attention to that number for a later future time, i.e. around that election time next year? Because it does seem to suggest, because it says, you know, the phrase that we've all been brought up with is remember the 5th of November, which was all to do with Guy Fawkes trying to bring down Parliament centuries ago, but it didn't happen. But now it's kind of coming around again.
Soft, yes. And so it was subtly put out there. But there were other things it's referring to. So all of those other things you say 355 mean. So I think there's more to it.
Okay.
Wasn't just that one thing. So yeah.
Okay. Can we look further? Will we get any more clues on what maybe some of those other things might be, or kind of directions to look for with those?
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting. 3 of Swords was the first one I pulled, so losing something. And then I pulled this one next, actually. So that's I think of it as Trump.
Yeah.
But losing someone of integrity.
Yes.
But it could be a temporary loss with the 3 of Swords. And then here we've got, but surprise. So losing someone and then they surprise you. It could even be Trump losing the election. It could have something to do with that whole shenanigans, we'll just say, in 2020, and maybe it actually surprising us where that led, because that was really the beginning of us really unraveling and truth digging, and truthers getting really on board with digital soldiers really going to work, and patriots, people that called themselves patriots, really like calling foul on something, right? I feel like that was a big awakening moment for a lot of people. Nobody, you know, like that just started so many things and so many channels and so many. I wonder if it also somehow points to that moment in time, which I feel like was created and had a lot to do with the White Hats, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a bit of a contrived situation to show us what happens. And we saw it in real time for the first time. Usually it just goes about happening behind the scenes and nobody pays attention. This way, everybody was watching and paid attention. I feel like they've been doing that. And I feel like they've also been in control a lot longer than we think, like since 2017 anyway, where they've been doing things. Yeah,
definitely. It's interesting, the first card you pulled there was the 3 of Swords. So I've just done the numbers on that. That comes to 189. And one way to look at that comes to 115, plus 74. 115 is the word Twitter. 115. I was saying that could be that date of 11/5, the November election. But then I brought up the geographical location to do with Guy Fawkes and remember the 5th of November. And the remaining value on that is 74, which is London. So there's one way maybe to look at it. There might be a soft yes on that, is 11/5 plus London is 189, which comes to the 3 of Swords. Another thing around this theme is there's a phrase, a kind of scriptural phrase. There might be another kind of theologies as well, but I know it's a kind of a scriptural, biblical stroke theological phrase, and it's called calling an election made sure. We might have spoken about this before. I've mentioned it a couple of times in the last couple of years. But when you do the numbers on calling an election made sure, and it never really totally made sense to me, but calling an election made sure seems to be making more sense now to this whole thing, because there's an election coming. I never understood the whole thing of the election bit, because 107 talks about the called, people that picked up the call. I do believe there was kind of a conscious signal put out across the world during these last 3.5 years. And it was up to everybody individually to accept the call and do their best, try and figure stuff out or not. I remember you said it a few years ago, hey, there's plenty of space on YouTube, set up a channel and go for it. Now, only really a relative small handful compared to the masses of the world bothered to do that. And that's fair enough. And, whatever it is. So people picked up the call, they heard the call, but then there's this thing of the calling an election made sure comes to 246. But that also comes to, yes, the 5th of November. It also comes to Diana, the Princess of Wales. So there's all these phrases that kind of correlate. Do we see something in regards to Diana and this election coming up? And any more thoughts or feelings or intuition from the cards about this thing of this phrase, calling an election made sure, 246?
Interesting. So this is manifesting. So she's a manifester and waits patiently to call to her what she needs. And she knows, she uses self-esteem and self-loving, and she knows she's worthy and gets what she needs. And she doesn't even decide what it is. She just knows she'll get exactly what she needs. That's why she's sitting there amongst quite a lot of foliage, and there's rivers and mountains and trees, all of that indicating abundance in the tarot cards, and this pentacle on her lap. So she visualized something and it became true, because that's how we're magical creatures, us humans, and we're really good at that. But we were dumbed down by various the education system, the medical system, all these systems, the government system, and all of them were really designed to, and of course, organized religion, really designed to dumb us down into the very, like basically an enslaved race we didn't even know we were, right? A debt enslaved race who doesn't even realize all the bounty of the earth is at her feet. It's at our feet. We were always told. And even if you look into really old scripture and some of the ones they didn't change, Jesus always says, basically you have everything. You're like, if you're the sons and daughters of the God or the goddess or the great universe, whatever you want to call it, okay, I would never treat my sons and daughters less than me. I have a son and a daughter, and I do everything to make their life as comfortable as possible, and that's what most good parents do. Give them everything I can to, so that doesn't make sense, those ideas of, if you're the sons and daughters of universal being, okay, guess what, even by that measurement, there's no way you wouldn't have and would have to scrounge, and would you put your sons and daughters in debt to you? That doesn't make sense. So to me, it's like we forgot our magic, and then this card is waking up to it. So there's a wake up somehow in, I don't forget what the question was now. But whatever, there's a wake up call to remember our magic and that we're manifestors. And I feel like this is very important. Like, this is the trumpeter card, where you're being woken up from the dead, sleeping, from not knowing your true magic and your true abilities.
Yeah. Queen of Pentacles.
Yeah, she reminds us that we all manifest and how good we are at it.
Yeah. Pentacles. P. Yeah, Pentacles. So Pentacles is interesting because that comes to the Queen. That comes to Tuesday. And guess what day of the week, November 5th, 2024 is? It's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And it also comes to the word promise. So there's kind of a promise attached to that. You know, another phrase that comes to 246 is in the twinkling of an eye. And it talks, you know, scripturally about how the world will change in the twinkling of an eye. And it's like, I wonder if that's to do with that. But interesting, you said about there's got to be a wake-up call. So Queen of Pentacles comes to 178, which comes to emergency broadcast, interestingly enough. And then if you do Queen of Pentacles 178 plus 246, which was, yes, the 5th of November, or Diana, Princess of Wales, or calling election made sure, 246, or in the twinkling of an eye, that comes to 424. Now that's an important number because it's a palindrome, it's 424. But this is really interesting, going back to the thing of Diana and another phrase. So if you take off the word 200, if you just take off 200, because we'll say what that is in a second, you're left with 224. Now 224 is a way to represent the year 2024, because I leave them open usually, but 107 says you can drop the 0, which you can. You know, a lot of the times they'll just drop the 0. So 224, 2024, drop the 0 is 224. But then you're left with 200, and 200 comes to the phrase like a thief in the night. So it talks about that when this change takes place, it will catch people unawares. But another number that comes to 200 is Westminster Abbey. And that's where Diana supposedly had her burial service. There's also Mount Rushmore. Can we look at that? Are we going to see anything in regards to Westminster Abbey and Diana in the future? And maybe around this sort of time of the election of 2024, in the twinkling of an eye, like a thief in the night.
Got a yes in the middle there. First card I pulled was this Quickening card.
There you go, the Quickening, yeah.
Quickening, and this guy's fast and furious, and other words that go along with this guy, and can be a little bit reckless even. But he's well aspected with that ace next to him there. Okay. So that ace is a big yes to your question. And the 4. So within maybe days of that, or maybe even sooner, is how I read that. I feel like maybe not right on the day, but something's coming that might feel quite out there, because this 7 is like, it's pretty out there. And it really helps humanity. This guy really helps humanity, or speeds up your process, and is there to, so those two creatures are actually guiding this human ego person. Like this person's covered in ego because he's got his armor on. That's your ego here on the earth plane. You need the armor to live here. But deep down, so all the moons and moon phases all over him indicate and the star, that he's very, very like star, and the moon phases Cancer, relates to Cancer and the sign Cancer. This person is very soft inside, so kind, good, and the star vulnerable. Okay, but because of that, so our humanness is very vulnerable, but our ego protects us here. Yes. So our ego protects us, and then we can go out in the world, and we're guided by spiritual energies and maybe our mission. So these two are in charge of that. So they know karmically, they might even be the all the lifetimes you've lived. So they have all the information for what you were trying to achieve this lifetime. This guy's guided by and destiny. So you've got this small sort of wheel of fortune, this little top spinning. That's like the wheel of fortune, but spiritually guided. So it's karma. basically your karma that you've created and the karmic lessons that you want to learn. So this guy's being led. So you think you're in charge, you're really not. Okay, your soul's in charge and you're what you agreed to do. And that makes a lot of sense when I just woke up. Like I already was really into what I did for a living, which was tarot reading for a huge clientele for many, many years. So I was already and teaching tarot and astrology. I was already feeling like I was in my life mission. But then when we got locked down, it was like, boom. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have the same experience that you've talked about. All of a
Yeah.
sudden the numbers start coming. Okay, that would be the universal sort of mission kicking in now. That
Yeah.
it upped the ante. Now, okay, now you're doing this. And I was just about 60 years old then when that happened. I was just entering my Saturn return, the second one, and I was thinking I was winding down. And I wound like I've been going crazy ever since and working way harder than I ever did in the good sense. I love what I do and I'm happy to do it. But now we've got that 4. So we've got the 4. So this is the 4 of Pentacles. So something about protection and holding back. So those two are interesting together because this one wouldn't hold back. But this one's, there's a sense of safety and a big ace. The ace was there in the middle. Okay,
Right.
so yes to your question. And then it feels like, so the dates and the way you asked the question, I feel like it may come, but it could be days before. I'm thinking before with that card, or even weeks. So I feel like it's around that time, but not right on that time.
The Chariot card, the first card you pulled, what was there was you described it as another thing as well. What would you, there was another phrase you used with that?
Well, it was, so it's there's a recklessness to it. There's a leg up. It gives a leg up. It helps you. It's like, if anyone knows totem animals in the medicine cards, it would be like the horse totem. So the horse takes you, like it picks you up at a certain point in your evolution and then drops you. It's like a quantum leap. So you quantum leap with this energy. It comes and helps you and gets you ahead and drops you off, but it's a little bit fast and furious. So there's fast and furious goes along with this one. Recklessness, if it's badly aspected, it can be like you got to slow down, but if it's well aspected, just go with it because you're protected. You're going to have a big boost forward. I feel like it's saying right next to that ace, we're going to have a big boost forward with some of those things you asked about and a big yes, but it could maybe be before or after, I'm thinking.
Okay.
So time frame, maybe it's indicating.
There was something at the beginning of that read that you said, and I can't remember now because I went and did a decode after it, but it came to 143, which was November 5th, 143. So there's people rewind, I'll have to put it in the notes, but rewind back a few minutes, and the very first phrase that JANINE used with that card, there was a key 2 words that came up, and I can't think what they are. But then you talked about quantum leap. So the Chariot, when you do the numbers on the Chariot, it comes to 107, which comes to quantum. So that seems to be the case. That it's the word actually. So there were 2 phrases, 2 words. The first one came to 110, and then it was which is 33. So I'm trying to think what they were, but that comes in total to 143, which was November 5th. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I think the world's, the things I'm seeing with it, we could go to 2028 because I think all the big stuff happens on a leap year. I think there will be even bigger things in terms of 2028. But I think the way it's all lined up, even the stuff with JFK Jr. and President Trump, I think it's quite clear and obvious that they're on the same team. And I think we're going to see that kind of get closer and closer. But it just feels to me that it's all lined up for them. That's what I get. That's what I'm getting right now. It seems to just be a very crucial, deliberate pinnacle point on many levels, i.e., it will give people the sense, all these indictments of Trump right now, it's allowing him to bring them in as witnesses. All these bad players, it will be publicized on TV. It will do a lot of red pilling for people. I've got a question. You probably saw this, JANINE. So there was a woman on TV here in England the last couple of days, and her name is Jan something hyphen Halper. Yeah.
Yep.
So she's obviously a white hat because she's talking about the things we've been talking about for the last 3 years. She's talking about gold being moved in aeroplanes. We knew that back in 2020.
Yep.
You had the film Tenet, where you had the white hat Christopher Nolan film, and you got an aeroplane. All of a sudden, all this gold falls out of it. You know, that concept of moving gold, unless you were in that business, you wouldn't have ever really thought that, but it was there. She's wearing purple. Purple is 88 Trump. Now, I did some numbers on that. If you do her full name, and I can't think of her middle name, her middle hyphen name, but that comes to 143 as well, which is November 5th. And then you add the hyphen, which is 32, and that takes you to 175, which comes to consciousness, but it comes to Diana Frances Spencer. Was that Diana doing central casting, appearing in a well-costumed mask, giving all that red pilling stuff to us on the TV?
I did look into that, so I'm kind of looking at, what did I write? There he is, Dr. Jan Halper Hayes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Halper Hayes.
Halper, and then Hayes. Okay, that was her name. I looked it up, and she was apparently, and this is what a lot of, because I don't necessarily look into all those kind of people. People think I should, but I'm a tarot card reader. I go and look at what the cards say.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get all intellectual about things, if you haven't noticed. And that's okay. That's actually kept me good at my job, because if I got too intellectual, now I'm way off course. I got people writing me and they're giving me heck because I'm not saying her name right, and it's like, who cares? Like, it's not about that. It's, what do the cards say about this energy? Because for all you know, you're saying her name wrong, because language is spelling, and it's spell casting. So we have to be careful. Like, maybe I'm getting it right.
Never let the three-dimensional facts get in the way of the truth, is what I say.
Yeah,
Janine.
like I don't tolerate that kind of comments, by the way. I couldn't care less what people think about the way I'm saying things. Like, that's how I say it, and maybe I got it right. But anyway, this Jan, it turns out all these people wrote me and told me that she was part of the Trump team at some point. She's a political figure for many years, and she jumps on UK shows, also Sky News and Australia, places around the world. So she lives outside of the US, or she travels a lot outside the US and talks about US politics. So she's perfect. And I months ago, there was going to be a woman that came on the scene and really, really cleared things up for us.
You did. I remember that. You did. Yes. I remember
started the ball rolling, and maybe this is her. But I did get, when I read into her on the Beyond the News, I got that with Jean-Claude, I got that she was a mask. Whoever she is, she's an actor wearing a mask. So they're using her identity. So even if she was a good person and a Trump, like whoever that is actually part of the scripted theater that we watch. Okay, so let's have a look. If you're asking, is that has anything to do with Princess Diana? Let's have a look.
Maybe Melania,
I didn't get
I
who
think
it
Princess
was.
Diana. Yeah, I think Princess Diana. Yeah.
I didn't get who it was. I just.
Yeah. But she's in a mask. She's part of Central Cast. She's part of Mission Impossible Mask 261, which is the date that Diana passed.
I don't know what soft yes around that means, but then we've got the moon card, which is a deep mystery and can be a death card or a passing over, or they still want you to, they're not ready to admit Diana hasn't passed over, maybe Princess Diana. Soft yes. So, like, that's interesting. I wouldn't say that's a no, but it's not saying yes. Maybe it just means she's somebody, whoever that is somebody that will be important, maybe, or will be interesting later. Maybe not exactly Diana.
Well, I've got, that's it. So is that card Page of, how do you spell that? Is it Page of Wands?
Page of Swords.
Page of Swords, sorry. So Page is 29, Diana, for starters. So, and then Swords is so let's look at swords. So SWORDS. Okay, 9 plus, so swords is 9, 8. 9 plus 8 is the funeral time of Diana. So look into that as you will, you know. So page of swords, so 29 of 98, so that's 148, which is simple geometry, which is Donald J. Trump. And then what was the second card again, please? The other one?
The moon.
The moon. Okay, so moon is 57, which is magician, which is England. Obviously, Diana should or will be the Queen of England. That's 90. That's boomerang. Then 148. Okay, comes to 238, which comes to 1997 actually, and she died in 1997. So 238, adding those two cards together, comes to the phrase 1997. But this is interesting. If you do this, it comes to Princess Diana. Sorry, it comes to Diana Frances Spencer, masks, plural of masks, which is 63, which is the year of JFK. Anyway, so maybe, I don't know, there's some maybe loose fields to that. Maybe they don't want to tell us fully yet, but that's what I got. I looked at it, I was like, there's definitely indications on the November 5th election. She's wearing purple. She's in a mask. That's what I felt. Because it was almost like it was one of us telling what we've been telling for the last 3 years. And there she is on the TV doing it. And she's just slapping Michael Portillo into position and giving him a right rogering. And I'm sure you'll enjoy that, Michael. So, you know, that's what she was. Yeah, brilliant. Was there any feelings around maybe Melania at that time with that? Because her full name without the abbreviate, without the hyphen, is just 143 Melania Trump.
So this is really funny.
Is that card again?
We've got a maybe. So I think what it's saying is
you just had an orb there. It's either a really
big I saw that.
You just had an orb. Yeah.
What the cards want to say is it's somebody that we might be interested to know who it is later and who could be of the caliber of those two women you just mentioned, Princess Diana and Melania. So like maybe, right?
Yeah.
But it's not willing to give it up. So that's
not yet.
funny.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. And that was Page of Pentacles, is that right? Yeah.
That's the Page of Swords again. So pages are maybes in questions, whereas aces are yeses or nos.
Okay.
Depending. Mostly they're yeses, aces, mostly yeses, but on the occasion they can be a no, depending on how you ask the question.
Can you pull those up again for me, Janine, please? Those two cards again. So it's Page of, just because this is interesting. I don't usually decode the natural name, you know, the numbers of the card itself, but it's interesting what's coming up with it.
Okay, I put them in here.
Okay.
So you might want to keep talking because I shuffled them in here.
Okay. So it was the Page of.
It was the
Queen of Pentacles, yeah.
And the Page of Swords again.
That was it, yeah. And but both of those cards have come up in the last couple of reads anyway. So Queen of Pentacles, let's look at that again.
The Queen of Pentacles, she's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Pentacles is 95, which is the Queen, which is Tuesday, November 5th next year is on a Tuesday. So Queen is 62. Queen of Pentacles. So that, yeah, comes to 178 plus 148. Ah, okay.
There we go. There's the page.
Yes. Page of Swords. Yeah.
And he can be about gossip and innuendo, also about putting out a message. So they're signaling and they want you to look into who that is. I think they want truthers and digital soldiers to look into and have the discussion, who could that be? And that it definitely is a mask wearing person, whoever it is, and representing for the white hats. I think they're wanting us to do those things. I think so the signal is that it's somebody important like that, whether it literally is or not. They want you to start looking into that or get that on. It's almost like they're planting ideas in your mind so you can start preparing for something.
Yes.
This card is about, so swords are thoughts and words, so information, and pages get things out there, but they're not always 100% exactly the way they need to be. So they have to evolve to get to be the real clout, like be the King of Swords or the Queen of Swords.
Yeah.
But the
It's
page
so-
and the night, they're work in progress. So they're not all the way there yet.
It's so interesting. If you pull those up again, Janine, so page of swords, 148. We did that a moment ago. So that's Donald J. Trump. It's simple geometry. It's also Project Bluebeam, and then Queen of Pentacles is 178, which is emergency broadcast. So I wonder if there's a thing on emergency broadcast plus the Project Bluebeam. That could be a great way to do it, get everyone's attention. But you add them together, comes to 326. 326 come to the second coming of Jesus Christ, or second coming of Jesus Christ. But Jesus Christ also comes to 151, which comes to Lady Diana Spencer. So you could say the second coming of Lady Diana Spencer, which is amazing. But also you can do this. So if you do 326, take away Diana Frances Spencer, that would come to, so 326, add those two cards together, comes to 326. It comes to Diana Frances Spencer, which is 175 consciousness. Millennium Wheel, interesting enough, and that overlooks Parliament. But then you've got the remaining figure, which is 151, which is Drain the Swamp, and she definitely will be part of that publicly. But also 151 simply comes to Lady Diana Spencer. It comes to Jesus Christ, and it comes to the Jasara reset. So that's cool. That's interesting, those things. So like you say, it's kind of maybe wanting us just to kind of have a play, figure things out. And I also get this as well. You might have felt this. When we get certain code, well, I say codes, you get certain reads. Sometimes I feel like I maybe shouldn't say something because we think it might affect or change stuff. But I do think it's getting more and more obvious, because nothing can stop what's coming. So it's going to happen inevitably anyway. But I do think they want us to play with this and put it out and get people thinking. I think that's all part of it. I think it's totally all right to do so, because President Trump is blatant. If you can understand him and read him, I think the message is getting clearer and clearer and clearer about what's coming.
I do too.
Yeah. So brilliant. How are we for time, Janine? We're probably wrapping up in a moment, aren't we?
Time's up here, actually.
Time's up. It's a good time to finish. So it's brilliant. It was a lot of fun. How can people find you?
Well, I'm on Rumble these days, on Beyond Mystic Rumble channel. I got Tuesday's Quick Pick. That's a fun one. And it's been going, I've been stretching that out to a half-hour show. So that's pretty funny. It started out a 10-minute, 15, and then I just kept adding things to it. So anyway, I also give heads up about what's coming on the Beyond Mystic world, right? So then I have my, that's a .com, that tbj.com. And then that is a $4.99 cost a month. $4.99. That's American, and that's a month. And lots of good content on there. And that's how basically I dealt with being tossed off YouTube. And if you see my YouTube, I got lots of bootleggers still bootlegging. They manipulate the videos and they add things and they get away with it somehow. But I'm not on YouTube, you guys. Like, if you think you're watching me on YouTube, somebody stole the video. But whatever, like we've tried everything to get those guys to stop. It doesn't work. So we just leave it. And I got my website, and I also have the Rumble channel now. And of course I get to be guest appearing on shows like yourself.
There you go. I get that, because I had my other channel on YouTube taken down a couple of months ago. And then, as you know, I was like, right, I'm going to put some of them back up. And I was like, I put ones up of you and me. And then I get all these well-intentioned, and some of them are very, very clever, all these immediate bots that say, oh, this is awful, wish you'd let us know. It's like, well, you know what? If you follow my work, you know what happened. And we're putting the video back up. And then they see that it's my video, it's my channel, it's been there for 3 years. I've got 85,000 subscribers. And then they're like, is this a fake channel? It's like, and then I peer into who it is, and they've never commented before, but they instantly, like the Matrix, just swarm and put all this comments out of nowhere, and it's like they're all fake accounts, It's like, so it's pretty clever, but the true followers know the truth, and they always support us. So
That's right.
That's it. Well, thanks a lot, Janine. That was a lot of fun. And remember the 5th of November. I hope we do. Thanks, Janine. God bless. To see you soon.
Bye.